All right. Welcome back to the podcast playbook. I'm going to be diving in. I'm going to be talking a little bit about basically some things that people do in podcasts that they could do better. And really, it just comes down to stop doing these things, okay? One of them is to stop podcasting about topics. And just to give you a little bit of context as far as how that's set up and why I'm diving into this, is that I'm in this group. I've been doing the 2 Comma Club X training from ClickFunnels. And there's a guy in the call that I do every week, and he's like, I want to do a podcast about taxes. And I was like, don't do a podcast about taxes, right? Now, what we're talking about there, and there's another group or another couple there that are also doing a podcast about their topic. But their podcast is for owner, influencer, entrepreneurs, right? And I like that. But the difference is that if you're talking about taxes, then you're talking about stuff that isn't personal to people, right? If you're talking about, and we fall into this trap a lot in our podcasts, it seems like the ones that really take off are the ones that are about people or have a story to them or things like that, right? And so it's not podcasting about a particular topic. What we're really dealing with here is we're talking about telling a story. We're talking about podcasting about your audience. And this is something that I tell people a lot when I'm helping them get their podcast started, is that your show is not about what you do. So a lot of people, what they want to do is they want to start a podcast about what they do for work so that they can attract people to come and get what they do, right? And the issue is that they're podcasting about a topic. And instead what they need to do is they need to podcast about their customer. So you podcast about, let's say, I have another friend that I was talking to the other day that does family business transitions, right? So you're transitioning from mom and dad to the kids or the grandkids, right? And he has his own podcast and he talks about stuff and he's like, yeah, it kind of has turned into a value add for our customers. And I'm again, right? He's not talking about his customers. He's talking about his expertise. And the problem is that if you're talking about your expertise, then the focus can become back to, it can be back on you, right? And so then you're talking about me, I, we, instead of you have this problem, you need this solution, you need to do this, this will help you be a better, right? That's why I'm trying to do this in this way, because it's stop talking about your topic, stop talking about your expertise. And the reason is because you could do a lot better. Just as an example here, you will attract more people to your show if you are talking about them, right? So if I listen to a podcast and I hear them talking about me or about the situation that I'm in or the things that I care about, then that is a completely different experience from them telling me that I need to know a thing or I need to understand a thing and that they have the answer, right? And so that's the difference. That's what you're trying to do. So you don't want to be focused on, we're going to talk about how to lay bricks today. And nobody cares, right? What you're going to talk about is how to make your customers excited about the bricklaying that you're doing, right? And then what you're talking about really is when you show up to a job site or when you leave, sometimes people aren't happy with the job you did bricklaying, right? So, or podcasts, right? So you get in and you're tempted to, we need a show about, let's pick a programming topic. I mean, that's where I live, right? So testing software, right? So we need a show about testing software or maybe a certain tool, right? Well, the reality is that I don't need to talk about the tool. I need to talk about the problem that people are having, right? So we get in and we start telling the story about how people might have bugs that are showing up in their production software systems that shouldn't be there. People may be running into some other issue where, they're having their work done, and then they have somebody else come along, right, and that somebody else comes along and they change the software, and so now the original assumption about the way it works doesn't work, right? And so we talk about these scenarios, right, that are frustrating to people. These things happen and they suck. These things happen and they're hard. These things happen and they're not what you want. These things happen, this is where you're at. If you're having these problems, if you're a software developer, these are concerns that you want to be thinking about. In other words, it's about you. And then we talk about, so what you may want to do is bring in this testing tool, or do testing in this way, or use these techniques, or do these other things to solve your problem, right? And that's where you're going to hit. So let me give you another example about this, right? Taxes. So I don't want to listen to a podcast about taxes. I hate taxes. I hate paying them. I hate filing them. I hate talking to my accountant about them. I hate doing the bookkeeping. I pretty much hate everything that has to do with taxes. So if you want to turn me off about a podcast, do it on taxes, okay? But the reality is there are some things that I need to know, because it's going to save me money. It's going to save me time. It's going to save me effort. And so at the end of the day, what my friend Sam needs to do is he actually needs to focus on his customer. And so his customer is business owners, or, people who have a large investment portfolio or something like that, right? Where taxes become a royal pain. I mean, if I go to a job and I collect a paycheck and I get a W-2 and I take it, I might have deductions for my house, for some charitable contributions, maybe one or two other things. But for the most part, my taxes are pretty straightforward, right? So I go put it into TurboTax and I'm done, right? So a tax podcast is definitely not going to appeal to those people. But I run my own business, right? So I have to file for my business. I have to I have deductions, and I can deduct different things in different ways, and it's a giant pain, right? And so he doesn't want to do a show about taxes. What he wants to do is he wants to do a show about how I can save thousands of dollars every year as an entrepreneur, right? So he wants to do a show about entrepreneurs, and he wants to do a show about entrepreneurs who structure their businesses in a particular way so that they can save the money. That's what he wants to do a show about, right? And so he may not have all the expertise he needs to do that, right? So he may talk about corporate structure, and he gets that, right? And then he brings in an attorney to talk about how to actually file to get that structure. Or maybe he has the expertise on that. I don't know, right? And then he talks about, here's how you track receipts. Here's how you, right? But he's talking to me about, do this so you can save money, right? You're trying to save money at the end of the year, so we're going to talk about how this plays into that, right? Here's how you do tax-advantaged retirement savings, right, is another one, right? But again, it's not the topic. It's here's how entrepreneurs can save money on their taxes by contributing to a retirement fund, right? Here's how entrepreneurs can save money by blah, 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 right? And what it boils down to then is, now he's talking about me. He's talking about my problem. He's talking about how I can save money, how I can put money into retirement. He's talking, and that's what it's about. So the show's not about taxes. The show is about your listener. And if you can nail that, right? If you can tell their story, either their future story, like, here's the direction we're going to go. Here is the path we're going to follow. Here is the place we're going to head toward. That changes the whole dynamic. Instead of just saying, here's what you have to know about the tax code, right? And so you take them on that journey, and you make the stuff work. And at the end of the day, then it's about them, and it's about their journey, and it's about what they're going to get out of it. And they'll keep listening because there's something in it for them. Okay? So going back to just the beginning idea, stop talking about topics and start talking about your customer. Tell customer stories, take them on the journey, make sure that they understand what's in it for them, and then at the end of the day, you're going to have a podcast that they actually are going to want to listen to. All right? That's pretty much it. Go check out the Podcast Playbook course. Also, go to podcastplaybook.co/resource-guide, and that has all the stuff in it that you're going to want to know about how to host, how to promote, what tools you can use. All that stuff's all there. And that makes it real easy for you to just go in and say, okay, I'm going to use this, I'm going to use these tools to get my work done. And yeah, we'll check in with you tomorrow. Max out, everybody.